Welcome to the programme. It's 9 minutes past 10 o'clock. Eve Walden we're going to be talking about. We've got a guest in the studio, John Shakespeare and Cathy Clucas. Moramai to you both.
Moramai.
Moramai.
And first of all, who's going to tell me what Eve Walden is?
I think Cathy should do that.
Okay, all right then. Right, Eve Walden is the eve of May Day. So some people might know it as May Eve as well. A lot of people know it by that. And all Manx festivals and lots of Celtic festivals started on the night before when the sun set. And then the next day is Lair Bolden.
Yeah, the
May Day.
Yeah, because a lot of people who follow a little bit of Manx will know from Evi, of course, good night, and the Lair that we say for day. It was just the other bits in between, of course, Walden, then May.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's just been going a long time, this festival.
You mean the festival that's going on the 6th of May?
No, I'm talking about the original one. Where does that originate back as far as?
That's difficult to say where it's a very old festival, and lots of it is like rituals involved in it. And there's similar things happening in Ireland and in Wales and lots of other countries as well, with certain elements are very similar. Yeah. So it's got all the indications of being a very ancient festival and ritual.
Yeah, and they had lots of these festivals celebrating different parts. But I suppose they weren't like the modern 2018 people who would head to the pub or a concert at the weekend. I suppose this was, the 3 or 4 highlights of the year, these particular festivals, wouldn't they?
Well, I think there's probably a lot more festivals than we know of. There's just some of them of what we've got remain, what we know about nowadays. Yeah. So, it was also to do with things like fertility, such as your animals and your crops growing well, because that was really important in the past. Nowadays, we don't have to worry about such things as much as we used to. Obviously, certain parts of the world do. Yeah. Still,
Yeah. All right. And John, the festival itself, I think you're in charge of organising that.
Yeah, I've done quite a few. I love Peel. I remember the very first day. I used to do a bit of rally driving, so we used to have a Vauxhall Chevette, and I remember coming to the Isle of Man before I moved here, and arriving on the prom and seeing Peel Castle and that scape, and that's the thing that's inspired me. I then got involved in the excavations. I then did 23 years of outdoor Shakespeare in Peel Castle, and of course the Viking festivals, and that's my passion is the Vikings. And I've done a few torchlight processions using that landscape, and that's what I love about the Isle of Man. You can go anywhere, and there's the mountains and the mist and the hills, a bit like today. And so the commissioners, Peel Town commissioners, wanted to try and do something different again for Peel. And actually we started talking about this last year when the controversial marketplace, which I think now looks pretty good actually, they wanted to do an event, but we just didn't get it off the ground in time. So that's where Eve Walden, this event, was founded. And I've just become a Blue Badge guide. Cathy is one of my mentors. Mm-hmm. And so together we met, and I was aware of Cathy's amazing knowledge, went on a tour with her around Port St Mary. And my love of the Isle of Man has grown even more because I'm a Blue Badge guide, and the more I learn, the more I love the place. And I realise that some of our traditions are disappearing. So we thought, May, what a fantastic time. Nothing else particularly is happening on the island at that time. So what we're trying to do is create what I would call a legacy event. And of course, 2018, Year of Our Island, it's absolutely perfect to introduce that. So we've had support from Year of Our Island and from Culture Van and to get this off the ground. So we hope this is the first of an annual event.
Okay, well, we'll talk obviously for the next 2 hours to you both about the various things. And just a text has come in to say that I thought there was only girls allowed in the guides, but different.
Well, actually, no, interesting. We can talk about that because the processions are really, really fascinating. And I think the summer May Queen did have 20 attendance, but
I think you talked about the Blue Badge guides.
Yeah.
Often people get that confused. Yeah.
We'll leave it there for the time. Yeah, you got to get to the Eve Walden, which is going to be on the 6th of May. Our guests in the studio, John Shakespeare and Cathy Clucas, and the festival we were talking about, obviously the 6th of May, and I was thinking with the fire side of it, I was thinking of the old Viking setting fire to the boat once before, but that's nothing to do with it, is it?
Well, the research that Cathy's done, when you read through, there's quite a lot of documentation about it, particularly Waldron and
Yeah.
Some people might know this festival as Beltane. We don't want to say that word because it's not Beltane. We want to make it our own festival from the Isle of Man. But it's got Norse traditions. So our Norse forefathers were obviously here for a long time. And so we've got a lovely, eclectic, unique again to the Isle of Man, which is what's always brilliant, twist on Norse traditions and some local Manx traditions. So, but the burning of the Viking boat, which I've organised in years gone past, was very much to sending a warrior to Valhalla. This is slightly different, but fire, extremely important to the start of the end of winter and the beginning of summer, and that's what this is all about. So, as we said, really important time of the year where people let the fire go out and then started a new fire in their house, and they burnt the gorse on the field. So these traditions had roots, if you like, in practicality as well, because it was the time that they had to get the animals out into the fields. So they wanted to do that, and they had to remove some of this gorse. And of course, on the Isle of Man, we've got two types of gorse, haven't we? We've got the original gorse on the Isle of Man, then the tall gorse that was brought in to put onto the tops of walls. And there's a lovely expression, isn't there? When the gorse is out, kissing's out, you can kiss.
Yeah.
And so our gorse now is out all the time, so we're all right.
I know that. I was going to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, it's an old expression. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the gorse, it just seems to be in flower all the year round.
Yeah,
and
that's
it is
right,
a
yeah.
beautiful flower
Yeah.
as well, isn't it? When you see it on
Yeah.
in the contrast with the heather as well, when that's out.
So this is the time they used to burn the gorse. In fact, it's quite interesting. I've got a niece, and her name is Zoe Gilbert, and she's just written a book called Folk, and it's won a Costa Prize. So, and she's coming over to be part of this. But the book is all about when she was coming over as a kid to visit us on the Isle of Man. She learnt all the Manx traditions, and she's written a book about this, and it's doing really, really well at the moment.
Right.
And she's coming over. But her first chapter is about the tradition of burning the gorse. And of course, they believed that the gorse underneath lived the fairies and the witches. So that's the reason why they burnt the gorse.
To get rid of them.
Yeah.
But I remember where I live out on the coast road at Derby, my dad always set fire, whether it was legal or not, I don't know, but set fire to the gorse. And then later, after it had all hardened up, they used to collect the sticks in an owl pram, the old type pram with the big wheels, and bring them home. For lighting the fire and things like that.
Of course. I mean, that's an interesting thing about the Isle of Man, that by the Viking times, majority of the wood had been cut down. So fuel for fire was really quite important. And actually gorse, dried out, was slow burning. So it was a very practical item to have. And also used for cattle fodder. So they used to have mills where they used to mulch it, crush it down. And it could be fed to cows as food.
And going back to the Shakespeare times at Peel Castle, John, no relation to the great Shakespeare, though, are you?
Possibly, actually. Possibly. In the 60s, there was a convention where all the Shakespeares in the country were invited down to Stratford, and there's a potential link to a cousin far removed, so you never know. And what I love, of course, Stanley, the great Stanley, they were the sponsors of the King's Men. And we know that Shakespeare performed in some of Stanley's palaces. So did Shakespeare ever come to the Isle of Man?
Well, you wouldn't know. I've
Wouldn't
been to
you
his,
know?
You wouldn't have been to his house, let me tell you that much. We've got plenty to talk about this morning. How long, Cathy, has the festival been regenerated then?
Well, there's been various phases of that. There's it's sort of gone along with how there's been revival of Manx culture at various times, there was a big debate in the newspapers in the 1830s and 1840s about the customs, connected with May Eve and Eve Olden. And then there's also been in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you know, with the likes of Sophia Morrison and, you know, the sort of the Manx Society, that type, you know, and people are getting a rejuvenation of being interested in Manx culture again, and there have been various events. And then Mona Douglas, she had, it was like a pageant that was ran at Bishop's Court. I'm trying to remember the date. I think it was about 1930, and that had different aspects of Manx culture, and that included a reenactment of the mock battle between summer and winter.
Right.
Yeah. And the origins of that, it's like John was saying before, that the Scandinavian elements, but not all the key features of Evolden are Scandinavian. It's a bit of a mishmash, a bit of a mix of different things at different times. But the mock battle between summer and winter, there's an element that can first be traced back to 1555, where Olaus Magnus describes this mock battle between summer and winter.
Right. Okay, well, we'll go through that as the morning goes on. It's 24 minutes past 10:31. Time to update you on the weather forecast in English and in Manx, and also give you the duty chemist rota for today. Today we'll start cloudy with hill fog as well as some coastal mist. However, some bright or sunny spells are likely to break through the cloud, especially away from the coasts. Temperatures reaching up to 12 or 13 in the sunshine, but a few degrees cooler along the coast with a light southerly wind this morning, becoming variable this afternoon. This evening and tonight will stay dry. However, low cloud and mist are expected to redevelop overnight. Mild, with temperatures no lower than 5 in the light and variable breezes. And now let's have it in Manx from Cathy.
Muramai in Hampshire Jedoonee a gol toshach leis fruach and a crink as pert jay shay silstach. Ac slickly de be shall na gal na greenach brisha true na bodulus. A soul vine a slis na elie. Tempralis surge dayeg na trijeg Celsius unsa green. Ac be a kem na gare na slew na shen na slisten. Leis gear fes vien jas mora jew. Chit na vei now chinderach uns asta. Be faster beg as chirim, ac fuvi de jig bodulach ingel as k arash roshan vura. Be in a empshire vler lesh tempralis queg Celsius ec cood slew lesh fan sherda giri. Asan reet. Nay in bodulus as k satoshak merach giri as brisha de chemoil. Ligid as shall skillia chitrish. Houds vi vis ungear chit the vei soyet via nyaras bishterach. Tempralis smooth there yeg Celsius. Hig bodjalus chew arash sin astabeg les shallen fliar chitrish na kierten fudni uns gemert. Esht been a fliar se toshik de sul de tavi les gemert faggot chirim les shal greenach na keten giraken vai nya na sha tawi les tempralis surge dayeg na trijeg. A Shannon Hampshire.
Lovely. That's a good it's an excellent long forecast for you today, just to just to break you in gently.
I could do it in one word. K. Mist.
KKK. Well, no, an LKKK.
Oh, okay.
Well, we got an interesting Manx piece next, Cathy, because you're going to introduce a little bit of history about some customs that happened from people.
Yeah, well, this is just a recording that was done by the Irish Folklife Commission of Manx speakers, and they're actually not speaking so much Manx in this part, but English, and they're talking about some of the customs that they're going through the year. So who's talking is John and Sage Convig from Ronnig, Tommy Lees from Carrickeel, Ned Madrell from Glenchas.
Well, let's have a listen, talking about all these customs.
Do you remember any of the old customs?
Oh, I remember when they were going round singing the old carols, singing in Manx and singing in English some and different things.
And on the quilters?
And on the quilters.
They didn't want a woman for a quilter at all?
No.
They wanted a dark-haired man.
Yes, a dark-haired
man. Yeah.
Well, I've been all night walking on the Queltex myself.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Full up to the neck of bun loaf.
Yes.
I didn't think much of it without they were given some spirits, though.
Oh,
to the
those
Queltex.
spirits going too, and but a person don't care to admit that.
No.
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 Yeah.
Youngsters getting the spirits, they shouldn't have been getting them.
Yes, I should think so.
Yes. Well, then after that, there was Kelly's na Drummock. Did you ever hear of her?
Yes, I've heard of that too.
I have too, but I don't know whether there's very much in it or not.
Well, if
Well,
they
what
got,
is that? What is the tradition behind that?
if they got the sticks dry, what was that?
To be a wet spring.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Yes.
They got the sticks wet.
Well,
To be a dry spring.
a dry spring.
Yeah.
That's how the story goes, anyway. Well, then after that came the 12th of May, or at least the 11th, the night of the 11th
Yes,
of May.
night of the 11th.
What was the customs around here at that time?
Burning gas for one thing.
Burning the witcher to
Burning
the
the witches and
Yes, before the 12th.
before the 12th.
Before the 12 o'clock.
I see.
Yes.
Well, around my part, we gathered the mayflowers from the meadows and strewed them at the threshold of the door, and went and cut twigs from the corn tree and made crosses and hung them behind the door, tied them with sewn thread, and hung them behind the door to keep the witches and the fairies away.
And they were making crosses and tying them to each of the cow's tails.
Well, I
In the
haven't seen.
colours.
I never seen that. I've never
Well,
heard of that.
I have
but
seen
of
it
course,
done.
I was never fortunate enough
I've
to be
seen the mayflowers at the
belonging to a
cowhouse
farming
door
family.
too.
Yeah.
Well, after that, what was the next
Midsummer Fair.
Midsummer Fair? Well, of course, the Midsummer Fair. I can't remember very much of that.
Yeah. So big,
Was there anything special about at that time?
well,
Everybody, you could
everybody
walk
was
through.
going. They were walking maybe from Craignace you were to the fair.
Yes.
I remember poor St. Mary fishermen
Yes.
travelling from Cookrice, rushing over the mountains, the top of the mountains, over by Tom Dippers, and away out to the Round Table, and down yon Needle, and down to St. John's.
Or do you
To
mean
go to fight about the tax, the
that's
rate.
I see. I've heard about that.
I seen
that
them.
was you call the Midsummer Fair, then that was what we call Tinwell
Oh,
Fair.
Tinwell Fair, yes,
see.
Tinwell Fair.
Oh yes, that's the
Oh,
time
well,
they put the fair in the governor when the fishermen all mustered up and came in a body, when he sent someone out to meet them and told them that their request would be granted.
Yeah, I suppose it was.
Yeah.
They're going to put Harbour Jews in Port St. Mary and put here in.
I believe so.
Well, I seen them fellas go on because I was in Harry Strain that time.
I remember that too.
And I was tending turnips up at the mountain hedge, a field up there, and I saw them travelling away over.
Imagine in a body.
Imagine.
There we go. The voices of John Sage Convig, Tommy Lees and Ned Maddrell talking about the calendar customs. Well, that's so rare. They must be, Cathy, them sort of recordings of...
Well,
people.
there was a bit of a glitch on it before. That's because it was being taken off a wax cylinder.
Was it?
Yeah, that's how they did. Well, I think so. Or there was always a copper plate. I don't know. It was an unusual way they recorded it. So there's some of the things from the original have come back when they've remastered it and put it onto CD.
Right.
Yeah, I think you can get it online now as well.
But
Yeah.
fascinating when you just get this vision, how was the fair? And I don't remember much about it.
They've had a good time,
You
I
sort
think.
of get the gist of it, don't you?
Well, maybe.
But Cathy, how did your interest in it all really become about? That your interest in such history of these cultures and.
Well, I suppose I've always been interested. I guess being Manx and my family being Manx, and You were told things about your history and about places and about people and about things people did and that type of thing, you know, stories and, you know, going out round the island, you know, blaeberry picking, blackberry, you know, all these sort of things that a lot of Manx people do, and I suppose people do in other places, and I suppose you get interested. And then, yeah, I've just always been interested in things to do with the island, really. And I guess a lot of it's down to my relatives and family and school too. We had a lot of good teachers that gave us an interest in our culture too.
Which school were you at?
Russian primary.
Right.
Yeah, and then I went on to Castle Rushen afterwards.
Did you find that these probably is that way with the schools, the primary schools in particular, where they at Peel and Castle Rushen, they've got the castles to talk about and things like that? I mean, do you think that makes it easier because it's close to their home and they see it all the time?
I don't know. I think it's down nowadays. It's more down to what's in the curriculum. I think they're trying to introduce more and more connected with the island in the curriculum in primary and secondary school, and it's also, I think, down to teachers as well, how they interpret the curriculum and how they use it. I mean, I think it's useful to learn about your own culture, what's on your own doorstep, and you can apply it to other parts of other history, you know, and how it all intermingles. And, you know, it's like you get a practical, it's because you can identify with it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's one of these things I've mentioned in the past on the programme as well, where you probably ask a lot of young kids, you know, who was the first president of the America, they would say George Washington. Yeah, if you said to them who was the first king of the Isle of Man or something, they may not know. And
no.
I think that's maybe that broad teaching, you know, of the world.
Yeah, there's a lot more resources out there now. There's a Manx history app, which is very good, which is like it gives you information. You know, it's specially devised for children at different levels to look at, to get information from, so they can access it. So that's quite useful. But it does come down to time, I think, and how much they've got to get information, they've got to get through, and what they've got to do. Unfortunately. So.
Oh, well. Okay, well, we've got another hour and a quarter to go yet on the programme. We've got plenty to talk about. We're going to be talking to John about what's in the festival later and what it's all about. And also we'll have some more music connected with customs and everything to do with Eve Volden here on the Isle of Man. 8 minutes before 11 o'clock. John Shakespeare and Cathy Clucas are guests on Moghrey Jedoonee this morning. We're talking about Eve Volden and the history of the festival and Manx traditions, and also in the second hour of the programme, John will be finding out what's actually in the programme for the events. We find out whether there's going to be any battle axes and things on the Peel Beach, but no different than a Saturday night, I wouldn't suppose.
No, yeah, not
just joking. And also we'll be talking more about some Manx traditions and having some more Manx music in the second hour of the programme as well. But it's all the festivals that you've got an interest in, Cathy, isn't it? All the culture and all the festivals that happen.
Yeah. Well, they're all very interesting. I mean, it's like Jedoonee we know a lot about because that gets a lot of, sort of PR, I guess, I suppose, and lots of people know about it. But there's like other festivals part of the year that people don't necessarily know so much about. As we got Imbok, or that's in February, and which is to do with Lel Brisha. That's like St Bridget's Day.
Bridget,
yeah, and that's at the first start of February. And then and then we've got May Day as well. And then we've got in August you got Lammas, which is like Lunarston, which is the equivalent in Ireland, which is the start of August.
Yeah, and it's one of them things. So I suppose some of the festivals maybe weren't. I suppose the festivals Jedoonee and the Tynwald even now that the kids are so involved in them sort of things, aren't they? I suppose some of the festivals probably happened like the Eve. The Eve Volden, where the eve of it started. I suppose the kids are all in bed then.
No, I doubt it very much. I would say they would be up and about. Yeah.
Fair cop. All right, so we'll talk about all of them things in the second hour. Back into the second hour of Moghrey Jedoonee here on Manx Radio. It means Sunday morning in the Manx language. It's all connected around the culture and music and all sorts of things in connection with the wonderful Isle of Man that we live in. John Shakespeare and Cathy Clucas Clucas are our guests on this week's programme. We're talking about Eve Walden, which is the eve of May, and the festival is going to be happening on Sunday the 6th of May, John.
Yes, it's a bank holiday weekend, and that's
Handy.
quite important. Well, I think traditionally it was 11th, wasn't it? Around the 11th and 12th of May. But because it's a bank holiday, it works really well for us. And anyway, they went and changed the calendar, didn't they?
Yes,
at some point.
yeah.
So we're good. We're good. So what we're doing is we're celebrating May Day, and then the fire festival is in the evening. So we start off. Funny enough, on the posters, when I first sent them out, it said Peel Beach and Weatherglass Corner.
Yes.
But everyone's coming saying, where's the Weatherglass Corner? I'm thinking, really? Anyway, so it's Peel Beach and Promenade. So you know the bit where it goes over the swing bridge to Fenella? That bit is going to be closed off from 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And from there, we're erecting a music stage. And from 2 till 8:30 p.m, we've got music continuously on that stage, including people like Clash 4, Dave McLean's Clash 4. We've got May Chalice, she's just amazing. We've got Brescia, Shenanigans, and Alice Dudley, and Scran as well. So we've also got the Bulgarian dancers, a bit of cultural flavour, and we've got Granny Jockin and maybe Perry Bain and some Manx dancing as well. So a lovely, lovely afternoon on a Sunday, on a bank holiday, enjoying that lovely scope of Peel. Now, on the beach, we've also got some of my Vikings of Man are going to be doing sports. And Cathy and I have this debate because in the records, there's something called a mace board, but Cathy will say that's May Games. But Waldron, I think, was saying that the mace board was where some of the children used to go around and sell ribbons to get good luck charms. So what we're going to do is John Dog Callister is going to be on the beach, and we're going to be making cross kerns, and Cathy will tell you about cross kerns and the May Games.
Yeah, well, just let me clarify. The mace board isn't something the police use to.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure what it is because it's in a footnote. The detail, it's always in the footnotes. It was by train actually in about 1845, and he said it could be that it was might have been meant May sports, but there could have been a time where they did go around selling ribbons in Castletown, but no one really knows for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us about the cross kern.
But we can reinvent it. Doesn't matter.
You've got a cross kern, haven't you? Here.
I have
Yeah.
to protect you from bad spirits.
If you hold it up, we'll capture it on camera.
Yeah. Which camera?
Oh, that one there. A bit lower.
Yeah.
Bit lower.
Bit lower.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of Lockton wool.
It is a bit of
cross.
Lockton wool and a bit. It's a very, very. It actually, I found it in a file when I was reading through my bits and pieces that was there, and I thought, I'll bring it along. And it's actually a rowan tree or mountain ash. It's called kern, billiard kern, and you snap it off. And how you're meant to do it properly, as Dr. Clegg said, is you put a little hole in one of the sticks and you push it through, and then you wrap it with any wool, Lockton wool you find, but it hasn't to be cut by metal. That's meant to be a very important part of it. And what they used to do with these, they put them over the doorways of the houses and the cow sheds and all, and in the tails of the cattle. And on fishing boats too, they used to put them in there, hide them on the fishing boats. And one occasion I've come across, they said it was written that sometimes people would wear them. But, that's just the ones I've come across that. So, yeah, it was to protect from evil and bad spirits and witches who were on Eve Walden meant to have the height of their power.
Right.
So you needed all the protection you could get.
But did everyone make these? Or mostly the people involved in fishing and agriculture whose crops or whatever could fail?
Well, yeah, I think so. Well, I did when I was doing my dissertation, it's about over 10 years ago now, I did like a series of interviews with different people, and I would have liked to have had time to interview more people to get a wider view of it. But the people I did interview, like there was a lot of older people that said they did that traditionally in their family. It seemed to be that it was something the men did, but I haven't got enough proof. I need to look into it more deeply, but it looks like it was the men that did that. And then we'll get onto the flowers later. We talked about flowers being strewn across the doorways. Well, it seems that the women were gathering the flowers
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. We'll talk through that as the morning goes on. 22 minutes past the hour of 11 o'clock. It's Moghrey Jedoonee here live from the Studio 1 here on Manx Radio on Douglas Head. And we can actually see out now, which has made a little bit of difference. You thought the windows were just like that, like toilet windows, didn't you?
I know. It was quite low mist, though, wasn't it,
It
to start
was
off with?
indeed. Eve Alden, then there's going to be the fire we'll talk about shortly, but there's going to be Viking games, it says.
So in the afternoon, we're starting off at 2 o'clock, so people can come down and enjoy the lovely area of Peel and the beach. And on the beach, we've got John Dog Collister making cross curtains for everyone. And then we've got these Viking games. So they're great for all the family, children and adults. So we've got trials of strength and how far can you chop the axe and the blocks and that sort of stuff. So
there is going to be axes then.
There is going to be axes. Yeah, can't have something without axes. So that's in the afternoon. As I say, we've got music playing from 2 right the way through to 8:30, and there's going to be food stalls. So there's Black Dog and the Barista Van and the African Sausage Man. Going to be there, so there's now going to be nice food as well.
Yeah.
So that's in the afternoon, and then the evening it's our special show. This is what I'm really excited about, and we start at around 8:45. Now it's quite late, but because it's the bank holiday, we hope that families will bring their kids, and this is for everybody. It's a free event. We are trying to reconstruct some of the evidence that we've had. We are taking note of what happened in our ancestors, but we're trying to create what's new and sort of current today. And so we are having 3 parades. So it's all happening on the beach by the bridge. So people can assemble on the beach and watch this, which we hope will be an amazing spectacle. And we've got 3 parades. We've got one coming from around the castle, one from the top of Peel Hill, not the very top, but just where the bench is, where Park's Battery is, and also from the Craig Malin. Now, we are doing this in association with Hospice, and people can take part in the torchlight parades by going into their Hospice shop or online and buying a torch, which is £5, and the money's going to Hospice. And so they can take part in the parades, but they need to sign up in advance to do that. But also, there will be a tent on the promenade from 2 p.m. where people can also buy the torches and take part on the beach. But also, as the processions arrive, the first things that happens is that winter will fight summer. So the 2 parades meet on the beach, and there will be a slightly choreographed battle between winter and summer. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. What I could do is read a bit from Dr. Clegg gives a bit of a description of the mock battle. It used to take place on Eve. Oh well, he talks about bits there. Right, here we go. This is the bit I want to read, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. In May Day, a great feast was held in Castletown, and people from every part of the island used to come in their holiday clothes. A sham fight was held, a sign of the fight between summer and winter. The summer company of ladies and gentlemen was led by the prettiest young women. She was called the Queen of Summer. And the winter party of working men and working women were dressed in a queer way, and in any way they liked, for fun and play, and the leader was called the King of Winter. The last man who was the King of Winter was Captain Tearsley off the Friary Farm. The winter party was driven by the summer party on the road out to Scarlet, and when they reached as far as Scarlet, the fight was over, a sign that the sun had gone down in the west.
So we're going to recreate this fight on the beach, and some of the Vikings of Man are actually going to choreograph the fight. And if it works properly, it will be dark enough to see the swords sparking. So it will be quite good.
Ah.
And this is not a spoiler alert, but that summer will win, and winter, and then they will go and feast. And so we've got a sort of representation of a big banqueting table. Then there'll be a bit of entertainment. And then the next thing that happens is we're going to drive some of the cattle. We were going to have live animals, but because there's fireworks and lots of loud music, we're not going to do that. But there'll be a representation of the cattle and sheep being driven through between the 2 fires. We're lighting 2 big bonfires on the beach, and they'll have cross curtains to their tails.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that's been mentioned in a few write-ups about Evolden, was that they would drive cattle through the smoke. Now, so far, what I found, was a very big thing in Ireland, and what evidence found, not so much on the island, but I think people that possibly had Irish ancestry as well used to do this. And part of it is driving through the smoke, and it's possibly like a disinfectant as well. So it's supposed to get rid of all these bad spirits and things. And if you think about it, a long time ago, people wouldn't have known about things like viruses and diseases, these things, microscopic things that, could kill animals. So fire and smoke was a way where they thought they could get rid of them.
Yeah.
If if that makes, it's a purification.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the two parades that will do this fight on the beach, the summer will be dressed appropriately, and there are connections with flowers and colours.
Yeah.
Tell us the one about, didn't the ladies have to get up at first thing in the morning and wash their face in the dew?
Oh yeah, well the dew. Well, there's quite a lot written about the dew. So people get up. It was traditional to get up and get the May dew. It's not just a thing on the island, but the things that I have found about the island, it wasn't just about meant to make your complexion nice and all the rest of it, that type of thing. But also,
we better get up then, Simon.
It was, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And also the other thing about it was, it was supposed to be, if some people were seen up early in the morning getting the dew, especially in their neighbour's field, that was thought they were taking the luck from their neighbour.
Oh, right, okay.
So you could be sort of being a bit of a witch if you were thought to be seen doing that as well. So it was like, I think I think the word they used, is Tara. I think it was a word that's used. I don't know what that means in Manx. I think it is a Manx word, Tara. And it was like taking the luck.
Tara Ushter.
Well, no, that's Tara. Yeah, that's spelt differently, but I don't know. But yeah.
Tell us about the snails.
Oh, we'll do that in a minute.
Oh, right, snails.
Yes,
right,
we'll talk about snails very shortly indeed. We'll give it a French connection. But we've got to take this first of all. 26 before 12 midday today, and after the news at 12 o'clock, it's going to be Sunday Opinion. And today, Roger Watterson takes a closer look at some of the measures outlined in a scheme which could see increases to prescription and dental charges and the introduction of a healthcare charter. He'll also be discussing what's left of the island's Victorian past and its value today with Chairman of the Isle of Man Victorian Society, Peter Kelly. That's all on a packed Sunday Opinion today with Roger Watterson just after the 12 midday news. Then from 1:15 until 2 o'clock, Roger Watterson presents The Man in Line. But let's get back to Evolden with our guests, John Shakespeare and Cathy Clucas. And we're going to have a track now, a piece of music. There's plenty of music, which we'll talk about in a minute with John. But Cathy, Wheels of Fire is the one you've chosen.
Yeah, I've chosen because I think it suits Evolden quite well because the wheel is also like the cross, which for the Cross Kern, and there's a fire festival. And this is Barul. And this is come from the album when the Isle of Man, it was the year the Isle of Man in Cornwall in 2015 at Lorient.
There we go, from the festival that brought great Lorient, wasn't it?
Yeah, Festival into Celtic.
Barul and the Wheel of Fire. It's going to be fire on the day, but controlled fire.
Lots of fire. And the two parades, as I say, that people can take part in, one's starting from the Craigmallon and the other is starting just up Peel Hill. Now, if you want to take part, you've got to be over 16 to hold a flaming torch, and you can get those via Hospice shop for £5, and the money's going to Hospice, but you need to register in advance, and we'll tell you just sign a form but with information about where to start. So you can either be part of summer or you can be part of winter. There's 100 torches for summer and 100 torches for winter, and we'd love the public to get involved. Now, each parade has its own particular colours and mannerisms, and Cathy will now tell us about summer.
Yeah, well, summer is sort of if you want to take part, it's sort of light colours like yellows, greens, bright colours, that type of thing. And in contrast, and they're sort of just to reflect summer really. And in the winter, they're more like wearing darker clothes, like black, greys. Often they were in all the write-ups about them, it was like woolen-y type things, furs, that sort of thing. they're a bit more rough and basic, if that, you know, if that makes sense.
And I love the fact that the king of winter can either be a man or a woman.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
it could be the queen. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. And there's a lovely description, isn't it, that someone came along as the king, covered in a mountain of furs, so
Yes.
weighed down in furs. And I think that's to give the impression of cold and whatever.
Yeah.
And in fact, the winter parade is going to be full of the Vikings of Man as well. And we've got the drum circle, so there's going to be lots of drumming. And in the morning of May, I think they used to blow cow horns, didn't they?
Well, on May Eve itself, on the Eve Olden, they would, like up to midnight or after the sun had set, they'd go up to hills and blow cow horns.
Yeah.
This as well as for setting fire to the gorse
Yeah.
as well and banging drums.
And it was a bit of a tradition with stag nights as well, wasn't it? The horn blowing.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it was any opportunity to make a loud noise, wasn't it?
We've got some good horn music. There's people that I've done a little bit of work with called Jedoonee. And Jedoonee, he's from Norway, and we've got some fantastic atmospheric music for winter to arrive on the beach. And that's the other thing. The story is going to be told in front of us. It's just a live performance, so anything could actually happen and evolve, and that's exactly what we want. So the public are part of this performance. And I should say, that although children can't take part or hold a torch, they can take part in the processions as long as they're with an adult, and they can have a electric, battery torch if they want. So it's all about participation. This is what we're trying to do, is get the whole of the Isle of Man behind this. It's completely free. Now, so we've had Summer and Battle win. We then had the feast begins. We've had a bit of entertainment. We've then had the cattle driven through the smoke of the fires. And then we've got the procession of trees. So this is going back to our Norse roots. And we've got the tree of life called a Gridsill. And the Vikings believed that this tree connected all their worlds, like Asgard, Hel, Jotunheim and Midgard. So we have got 4 trees from the Isle of Man, branches if you like. They're in now the hospice shops, the 4 hospice shops. So you go online and have a look at that. And you can go in and you can buy a label. And the idea is for £1, you tie a message to a loved one, a deceased or for luck, onto this tree. And we're going to have a procession of the 4 trees to be burnt with a pomp and ceremony on the fires on the beach. Now, after that, we've then got a bit of party time. We've got Spinnin' Vannin, who are going to do a fire show to some Afro-Celt sound system. Fantastic, great mood music. And then following that bit, then the public are going to be invited to come through and take a blessing from the May Queen. John Dogg's hopefully making us a lovely bower, and you'll be able to go to the May Queen and get a blessing in Manx to give you luck for the coming season. And then when that's finished, there's fireworks.
Wow.
So great fun. And now we must just say that at 2:00 today, if anyone is interested in taking part in the core processions as performers with a little bit of costume and kit, we are meeting at the Peel Sailors Shelter at 2 p.m. today to go and lock down the actual what we're doing, when and where.
And what time are we there till?
We're there from 2 till 4 today. So if you want to drop in and find out how you can get involved a little bit more. But what we want to do, we want to raise lots of money for hospice as well. And it should be a fantastic evening. Keep your kids up, bring them down. Hopefully this event will run for years and years. That's what we want to try and do. Bring these customs back. And the music we've got is fantastic. It should be a great, wonderful evening. And I say it's part of our culture.
All right, we've got a break to take. We're going to be talking more about maybe some of the May sports as well after this. It's 16 minutes before 12. Welcome back to Moghrey Jedoonee. Just 13 minutes left before 12 o'clock on this week's programme. And Cathy, the flowers seem to be a big part of Eve Olden.
Yeah, it was like there was sort of symbolism, yellow flowers, and traditionally people used to pick, they're called Bluchton, which is like marsh marigold and like primroses and other yellow flowers. And like we said before, they used to put them across the doorways and over the doorways, and they were quite important. And I suppose it represents fire in a way because it's yellow. I suppose that's what it is. And like in Irish, it's Lus Bui Beltane, which is like Beltane, which is sort of equivalent to Bolden. So Bluchton is a word that's similar to do with cattle as well, because to do with milch cattle where you get dairy cattle. Yeah.
Right, I remember that in the Manx dialect play that we were in, a little smook, I think always at the Charm, I can't remember, where they put a little herb in, lush na chulloch or something.
That was the verbine. Yeah. Lussagrai.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there was a play called Lussagrai too.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I've not done that one.
Yeah.
But plenty happening. This, how well has it been supported in the past? Then has it been as big as this in other years?
I don't remember it being ever seeing this on the Isle of Man. I know there's been a couple of private parties up the valley.
Well, yeah, there's been a couple of different takes on it. I mean, Craig Nish does things at Lairbold, and they have like a little events that go on there, and they've had about 10 years ago they did a mock battle, and they used the children from the local primary school, and they did that outside Harry Kelly's.
Yeah.
Things like, I don't know if they did it for more than 1 year. So there's been little things over it, and then, like I say, there was this thing that happened in Castletown, but that was would have been like late 1700s, early 1800s. So.
I think one of the earliest references that Cathy's found was something in Castletown where the castle gave them permission to take some gunpowder out.
Really?
So that must have been an explosive event, I think.
Well, yeah, it's from the Castle Russian papers, actually. It's 1634, and they had 11.5 pounds of gunpowder and 6 yards of match delivered to the soldiers and young men used in connection with Lairbold festivities to bring home the May, they've said. So
Really?
obviously
went with a bang.
That would have been a big bang. You were ricocheting all around Castletown.
Yeah. So it's good. But anyway, hopefully, I'm not aware of it that much. I mean, hopefully because there's been a lot of talk about tourism, hasn't there? And certainly from my aspect as a Blue Badge guide, our tourism is increasing.
Down.
I don't quite understand where they get these facts and figures from, but what we want to do is, this is the sort of tourism we should be encouraging. So thankfully Culture Vannon have given us some funding for someone professionally to come and take some drone footage and some photographic records, so we'll be able to put together a bit of a piece about this and try and sell it, and the idea is to get people to come over to experience Evolden next year.
Have you had much interest from off Island?
Not yet, because this is the first time we've done it. So until you've got something to show, it's kind of very difficult. And because it's the first one, we want people to come and then say what they've had a good time. Or we must just say congratulations to Mira and to Imar at the BBC Folk Awards. And my absolute dream would be someone to have like Imar or Barul type person playing throughout this performance. That's what I'd love to see happening on Peel Beach. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Well, it's just the first year. It's just, and hopefully it'll grow organically. I was going to say there was Beltane, they've started that off. Tramit is in Edinburgh, where they have a big festival, and people from all over the world go to that, and that's sort of and that's connected to the sort of Pictish history and Celtic history of Scotland, and that is an international festival now. So it'd be nice. Eventually, hopefully, it'll get to something that people are attracted to the island to come to.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely, it sounds like it's going to be a fabulous day and evening. The success you've just mentioned of the Manx performance of the Manx music has just been recognised all over the world, and particularly, as you said, with Mira Royal with the winning the Junior Folk Award and the BBC Folk Awards.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm involved in the Isle of Man Newspapers Awards for Excellence, and we're unfortunately aren't available for that, but we're trying to focus on everything Manx for this year, because it's the year of our island, and I would love Mira to come and play at that as well. But the Isle of Man, it's kicking, isn't it? We're rocking, and these are the sort of things that's fantastic from the Isle of Man.
Right, just running out of time. Just finally,
where did 2 hours go?
Where can people get details of the Eve Olden, then the Eve of May?
It's on Facebook. That's our main portal, and there's 2 Facebooks. There's one for the public, as it were, and we've got another site for performers. So don't get confused about that. But go on, if you want to get in touch, just message me. We'll respond really, really quickly. I say we've got an afternoon today at 2 p.m. for people that are sort of closely involved with the parades and the music and stuff. But if you're interested, let me know. If you want to get involved, as I say, as a key performer, then there's a rehearsal happening on the night before at 7 o'clock. But do come along on the day. join in, spread the word, tell your friends, let's get thousands of people onto Pea Beach and let's have a fantastic Evolden.
Yeah.
Anything else to add, Cathy, before we finish?
Yeah, I
Quickly.
mean, if you think very quickly, it is like a connection between the past, the present, and the future of all the communities within the island. Because we're like an evolving culture, so get involved. You don't necessarily have to be Manx. You could only have been here not long. Doesn't matter. Get involved and come along.
Lovely. Well, Gurumaya to you both. Thank you very much
Simon.
indeed for coming. It's been a fascinating interest, even from my side of the desk today, to learn about this. And it sounds like a lot of work has gone into this, and I just think it sounds wonderful before it happens.
Can I just thank Cathy for all the work she's done and the inspiration for this?
So just shade of A.
Thanks very much indeed for you. 6 minutes before 12.